The text message on my phone said, "Cocktail a tear. Dinner at 7. My dad had sent it to the family group chat 3 weeks earlier. I spent those 3 weeks convincing myself that this time would be different. It was my parents' 36th wedding anniversary. And the party was at my Aunt Eleanor's lake house in northern Minnesota. Same house where my parents got engaged. Same walls covered in decades of family photos. Same porch where I spent every summer until I was 12. And my sister decided I was too embarrassing to be seen with. My husband, Ethan, took the afternoon off work. He sat in the passenger seat with his hand resting on my knee while I drove. He did not talk much once we got close. Because he knows the difference between a moment that needs words and a moment that needs quiet. We pulled up at 6:47. The sun was still holding on, turning the water behind the house a deep amber. Cars lined the gravel drive. My parents' sedan. My sister's new SUV. A few vehicles from family friends I had not seen in years. Ethan squeezed my knee once before we got out. I straightened my dress, took one breath, and walked toward the front door. I heard the party before I reached it. Music, laughter, that warm, dense hum of people already comfortable, already inside, already part of something. The door opened before I could knock. My sister, Brooke, stood there like she had been waiting for me. She looked perfect. Smooth hair, a glass of white wine in one hand, her smile shaped into polite surprise. The kind that is not surprise at all. "Oh," she said. "Maya. Hey." "Hey," I said, forcing my voice steady. "Is Mom and Dad around?" Brooke's smile stayed, but her eyes flicked past me, like she was checking who might be watching. "They're in the middle of dinner," she said. Then she tilted her head slightly. The way she does when she is delivering bad news, she rehearsed in advance. "The seating was already set. We didn't leave spots for you." I stared at her. "What?" "The guest list was finalized 2 weeks ago," she said, still pleasant and smooth. "You never confirmed with me. I sent reminders." She lifted her phone and showed me a screenshot that was already pulled up. Like she had been waiting for this exact moment. "It's a sit-down dinner," she continued. "There isn't room to just add people." Ethan's hand found the small of my back. Quiet. Solid. "Brooke," I said carefully. "Mom texted me personally. She told me to come." Brooke gave a small shrug. "Mom tells everyone to come. She doesn't think about logistics." Then she stepped slightly into the doorway. Not threatening, just blocking. "You can come for dessert if you want," she added. "Maybe around 8:30. And then she closed the door. Not slammed. That would have been too obvious. She drew it shut softly, like she was putting something delicate to bed. The latch clicked. The music continued on the other side. And I stood there on that porch, feeling every version of myself that had ever tried to belong dissolve at once. If that happened to you, would you knock again or walk away? Comment yes or no. Ethan did not speak right away. That is one of the reasons I married him. He does not rush to fill pain with noise. He put his arm around me, and we walked back to the car together. I sat behind the wheel and stared at my hands for a long moment. I thought about the anniversary card in my purse that I hand-lettered over 2 nights. I thought about every holiday I showed up early to help set up. Every dish I brought in glass containers. Every birthday where I bought a thoughtful gift and got a gift card in return. Every conversation where I listened for 40 minutes and spoke for 4. I started the car. "We're going home," I said. "Okay," Ethan replied, like he would follow me anywhere. We had been driving maybe 8 minutes when my phone rang. Ethan glanced at the screen first. "It's your Aunt Eleanor." I pulled over onto the shoulder and answered. "Where are you?" Aunt Eleanor's voice was even make it. But there was something underneath it. Careful. controlled, like a lid pressed down on boiling water. We left, I said. Brooke said there wasn't room at dinner. She said I didn't confirm. There was a silence. Not the silence of someone processing, the silence of someone who already knows. And just got confirmation. Turn around. Aunt Eleanor said. Right now? Come back. Aunt Eleanor, I don't want to make a scene. Her voice did not rise. It got heavier. Maya, this is my house. I want you here. Turn around and come back. Ethan was already nodding. Every nerve in my body wanted to keep driving. The latch click still rang in my ears. But Aunt Eleanor has never said something she did not mean. I turned the car around. The drive back felt longer. The amber on the water was almost gone by the time we pulled in again. The sky had turned a bruised blue. The cars were still there. The windows glowed warm. This time the door opened before we reached the steps. Aunt Eleanor stood in the entryway. 72 years old. Silver hair pinned back. A charcoal blazer over a silk blouse. The kind of presence that makes rooms rearrange themselves without being asked. She looked at me, and her expression softened for half a second. Then she stepped forward and hugged me tight. I'm glad you came back, she said. She took my hand and walked us inside. Dinner was mid-course. Long tables, candles, old linens with embroidered edging. My parents sat in the center, flushed with wine and celebration. When they saw me, my mom smiled and lifted her glass, like nothing had happened. My dad waved. And that's when it hit me harder than the closed door. They did not even know I had been turned away. Brooke sat near the far end of the table. When she saw me, she set her fork down. Her expression was not embarrassment. It was calculation. Measuring outcomes. Counting damage. Aunt Eleanor walked to the center of the room. She did not tap a glass. She did not raise her voice. She simply stood. And the room turned toward her the way it always did. Before we moved to the main course, she said, I want to say a few things. She smiled at my parents. 36 years is a long time to build a life with someone. I want to toast my brother and his wife tonight. Glasses lifted. My parents beamed. Then, Aunt Eleanor lowered her glass. But first, she said, I have a question for my niece. Brooke. The air changed. The room went still. Brooke straightened. Of course, she said, voice smooth. When did you become the person who decides who belongs in my house? Aunt Eleanor asked. Silence, thick enough to feel. Brooke opened her mouth, then closed it. It was the seating. She started. She never confirmed. Aunt Eleanor's tone stayed calm, but absolute. This is my home. These are my tables. Those are my mother's linens. I did not give you a guest list to manage. I gave you a head count. There is a difference. Brooke tried again. I thought it would be simpler. With the catering numbers. Simpler for whom? Aunt Eleanor asked. My dad cleared his throat, trying to smooth it over. Eleanor, let's not make this bigger than it needs to be. Aunt Eleanor did not look at him. I'm going to ask you to let me finish. My father went quiet. Aunt Eleanor turned back to the table. There is something else I need to address tonight. I apologize to our guests for the interruption. But I have learned something over the years. The longer you wait on the truth, the more comfortable a lie becomes. Then she looked at Brooke again. Go to my bedroom, she said. Top drawer of the dresser. Bring me the blue jewelry case with the silver clasp. The one that belonged to your grandmother. Brooke did not move. I'm sorry, she said. Too light. The blue jewelry case. Aunt Eleanor repeated. The one I showed you this afternoon when you helped set up. Brooke reached for her wine glass. It's a hectic night. Maybe after dinner. Go get it, Aunt Eleanor said quietly. That quiet landed like a door locking. Everyone understood it. Brooke stood and walked down the hall. 2 minutes later, she returned with empty hands. It's not there, she said quickly. Then her voice shifted into something I recognized from childhood. The voice she used right before blame. I think one of the caterers might have. I noticed someone in your room earlier and I should have said something. Aunt Eleanor did not react. Sit down, she said. Brooke sat. Aunt Eleanor reached into the inside pocket of her blazer and placed a printed screenshot on the table where the candlelight hit it clearly. It was an online listing. Antique jewelry set. 4 pieces. A pearl brooch. A garnet pendant. A gold locket. And a strand of seed pearls. The listing date was 10 days ago. Aunt Eleanor had circled one line in ink. The engraving on the back of the brooch. To Eleanor. Christmas, 1963. A sound came from one of her friends. Half gasp and half grief. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. Aunt Eleanor looked at Brooke. Those pieces were in that case for 12 years. The brooch alone was appraised at $7,500. The full set was valued closer to 19. Brooke's face went a color I still cannot name. I don't know what you think you saw, she began. Don't, Aunt Eleanor said, and it was the first time her voice carried heat. Do not finish that sentence. Then Aunt Eleanor looked at my parents, and I watched the exact moment my father understood. Not just the theft, the choice, the planning. Aunt Eleanor nodded toward me. Do you know why Brooke kept Maya out tonight? No one spoke. Aunt Eleanor answered anyway. Because Maya spent 3 summers helping me catalog every piece in that jewelry case. She said. She photographed them. She documented the engravings. She helped me with the insurance inventory. She looked back at Brooke. If Maya walked in tonight and I showed her that case, she would have known the moment something was missing. And there it was. The closed door was not just cruelty. It was a lock placed in front of a witness. Before I tell you what Aunt Eleanor offered Brooke next, would you want her to call the police immediately? Or give one last chance to return everything? Comment 1 or 2. Aunt Eleanor folded her hands. You have until Monday morning, she said to Brooke. Return the pieces. Cancel the sale. Do whatever you have to do. Brooke's voice cracked. You can't do this in front of everyone. You did it in front of everyone, Aunt Eleanor replied. You chose my home and your parents' anniversary to shut the door on your sister, because you needed her not to notice. Then she turned to the table. I apologize to our guests, she said. Voice, even again. Please enjoy your meal. She looked at me. Maya, sit by me. Chairs moved. A place setting appeared. Ethan pulled my chair out. I sat down with hands that surprised me by staying steady. Brooke left 10 minutes later. She grabbed her purse and did not say goodbye. My parents stayed because leaving would have confirmed everything. At one point, my mother reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. Her eyes were wet. I didn't know, she whispered. I believed her. Mostly. I know, I said. Some battles are not worth finishing at a dinner table. I had already learned the truth that mattered. I was not unwanted. I was inconvenient to a lie. Later that night, after dessert plates were cleared, Aunt Eleanor sat beside me and said, People who shut you out are not always doing it because you are too much. Sometimes they do it because you see too clearly. I think about that a lot, not because it fixed my family, but because it fixed something in me. If you want more stories like this, where doors close and receipts open, hit subscribe. The next one gets even uglier.